My name is Charlotte. I grew up with my mother, Emily, in a modest apartment located on the fringes of our town. My father left when I was only 5 years old, leaving behind a dim memory and numerous unanswered questions. Despite this, my mom never spoke negatively about him, though the sadness in her eyes whenever his name was mentioned revealed more than words could. It was just the two of us, and she went to great lengths to provide for me, often working multiple shifts and over weekends. There were times when I'd return from school to find her asleep on the sofa, still in her work clothes, too tired to even reach her bed. Our life was simple and sometimes challenging, but it was woven through with love. Witnessing her sacrifices ignited a determination within me. I was resolved to succeed and make her proud. While others my age were out socializing, I was buried in my studies, determined to change our fortunes. My hard work paid off when I earned a scholarship to study economics at State College. The day I received the acceptance letter, my mom wept tears of joy. "You did it, baby," she exclaimed, embracing me tightly. "You're going to do great things. I just know it." College was a revelation. I was among peers who had led much more privileged lives, which was initially startling. However, I didn't let it discourage me. Instead, it fueled my ambition even more. I graduated with honors, with my mom's cheers being the loudest at the ceremony. The pride in her eyes was unmistakable. Our years of hard work and dedication were finally bearing fruit. After college, I secured a position as an economist with a reputable company in the city. As I prepared to move, my mom reminded me, "Call me every week, and don't forget to eat your vegetables." I laughed and hugged her, promising to make her proud. Life in the city was a whirlwind of hard work and determination as I sought to prove my capabilities. I often worked late into the night and started early the next day. My efforts didn't go unnoticed, and within 3 years, I received a significant promotion. "Holy Charlotte," my coworker Michael exclaimed when I shared the news. "We need to celebrate. Drinks on me tonight." That evening, at Michael's favorite bar, amidst the loud music and flowing drinks, I noticed a tall, dark-haired man with a captivating smile at the bar. Our eyes met, and soon he approached me. "I'm Liam Montclair," he introduced himself, and the night unfolded with lively conversation and laughter. We quickly became inseparable, and after 7 months, I was deeply in love. On a crisp autumn evening, everything changed when Liam Montclair proposed. The journey from a challenging childhood to moments of profound joy had shaped me into who I was, and as I looked forward to my future with Liam Montclair, I knew the trials and triumphs of my past had prepared me for this new chapter. We were in the park where Liam Montclair and I had shared our third date, surrounded by trees dressed in vibrant shades of red and gold. As he slipped the engagement ring onto my finger, a stunning diamond that must have cost a small fortune, I felt like the protagonist in a fairy tale. But little did I know, our story was about to veer in an unexpected direction. A week later, Liam Montclair mentioned it was time for me to meet his parents. "They're excited to meet you," he said, but there was a hint of unease in his smile. My suspicions grew as we pulled into the driveway of a sprawling mansion, complete with a manicured lawn and several luxury cars, a clear sign of old, serious money. "Your parents live here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Liam Montclair just nodded and led me to the front door, which swung open to reveal an older couple who looked as though they belonged in a high society magazine. "Charlotte, these are my parents, Jackson and Madison," Liam Montclair introduced. They greeted me with polite smiles that carried a hint of a French accent. Inside, the mansion was like a museum filled with antique furniture, priceless art, and numerous portraits of stern-faced men and women in elaborate, old-fashioned attire. "Our ancestors," Madison explained, pointing to a particularly dark picture of a man who was a count in the royal court. Dinner was announced, and we were led to a dining room that could have easily seated 18. I sat down, overwhelmed by the array of silverware in front of me. As the first course arrived, I hesitated, unsure which fork to use. Liam Montclair subtly pointed to the outermost one, and I followed his cue, feeling utterly out of place. Throughout the meal, I could feel Jackson's and Madison's eyes on me, their looks of barely concealed disdain. I had never felt so inadequate. As we progressed to the main course, Madison's piercing gaze locked onto me. "So, Charlotte," she began with saccharine sweetness, "tell us about your family. What do your parents do?" I swallowed hard, my cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "I was raised by my mother. She's a waitress," I managed to say. "And your father's?" Jackson interjected, his eyebrow raised. He left when I was 3. "I don't remember him," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The silence that followed was suffocating. Suddenly, Madison stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is unacceptable," she exclaimed, her accent thick with anger. "Leah Montclair, darling, you cannot be serious about this girl." "Mother, please," Leah Montclair started, but Madison cut him off. "We are from an ancient French family. We have a reputation to uphold. We cannot allow our only son to marry someone without pedigree or proper lineage," she declared. Jackson nodded in agreement. "Indeed, we expect our son to marry an equal, someone who knows their lineage back to at least the 7th generation," he said coldly. I sat there, mouth agape, completely blindsided. "I know my mom's parents' names," I started, but the words felt hollow against the weight of their expectations. As the evening unraveled, I realized the fairy tale engagement was being overshadowed by a harsh reality, one where love was measured not just by the heart, but by lineage and legacy. Yet beyond Jackson's dramatic display of rolling his eyes so vehemently I feared they might detach, it was clear he lacked any appreciation for heritage or respect for lineage. "That's enough," Liam Montclair interjected, slicing through the thick tension. "Charlotte is intelligent, kind, and diligent. I love her, and I intend to marry her. Your approval isn't necessary." His words filled me with warmth, but that feeling was quickly chilled by Madison's icy retort. "Oh, you'll marry her, all right," she sneered, "but only if she consents to our conditions." Weakly, I echoed. Jackson leaned in, his gaze piercing. "If you are to join this family, you must adapt. You will follow our rules, learn our customs, and strive to uphold our societal status. Is that understood?" I turned to Leah Montclair, seeking reassurance, and he nodded supportively. "It's not as bad as it seems, Charlotte. They just want what's best for us." My head was reeling. This was not the engagement announcement I had envisioned. Yet, because of my love for Leah Montclair, I resolved to make it work. Reluctantly, I nodded. "I understand. I'll do my best." Madison's smile was cold and unconvincing. "Good. Start by familiarizing yourself with the history of our distinguished French ancestors. It's vital to appreciate your roots," she stated. I suppressed a response. My background was humble and nurtured by a devoted mother who had given her all for me. Instead of voicing this, I simply nodded again. The following weeks were a blur of relentless demands. My in-laws were not content with mere historical education. They decided I required a total transformation. "Etiquette and style courses," Madison declared, thrusting a stack of brochures into my hands. "You'll need these to blend in with our circle." Thus, in addition to my full-time job, I spent evenings and weekends learning to navigate 15 different types of forks, master the correct way to curtsy, and perform the complex steps of a waltz. "Keep your back straight and chin up," the dance instructor commanded as I tripped through yet another sequence, striving to embody the grace expected of a lady in society. Returning home each night, physically sore and mentally burdened by endless rules and protocols, I'd confront my wedding planner, overwhelmed by the myriad tasks still pending. My phone buzzed, Mom again. Taking a deep breath, I answered with feigned enthusiasm. "Hey, Mom. Everything's great. The wedding plans are progressing smoothly." "That's wonderful, sweetie," her voice brimmed with pride. "I can't wait to meet Liam Montclair and his family. Have you planned a dinner yet?" Cringing at the memory of my recent discussion with Liam Montclair, where he dismissed the idea of meeting my mother before the wedding, I managed a strained, "Not yet, Mom. Everyone's just so busy, but soon, I promise." The next evening, at another awkward family dinner, I cautiously suggested, "Maybe we could all dine with my mother soon?" She's eager to meet everyone. The ensuing silence was stifling until Madison scoffed, her laugh sharp and dismissive. And just how do you envision this gathering happening? Madison asked, her voice laden with scorn. Jackson, feigning patronizing patience as if lecturing a child, chimed in. Charlotte, surely you must understand, our social circles are quite different. We really aren't accustomed to mingling with a waitress. A wave of anger and shame washed over me, coloring my cheeks red. How could they diminish my mother so callously, as if her life's work held no value? She was worth more than any of them. I felt the urge to lash out, to defend her honor, but Liam Montclair's hand tightened over mine beneath the table. Let it go, he murmured quietly. Don't argue. It's not worth it. I clenched my jaw, biting down until I tasted blood, the injustice of it all gnawing at me. I loved Liam Montclair, yes, but at what cost? This felt all wrong. That night, as I lay restless and agitated, it struck me how much of myself I was sacrificing. With each stifled opinion, each compulsory etiquette class, and each lie to my mother, I was eroding pieces of the real Charlotte. Months of preparation culminated in our wedding day. Dressed in my bridal gown, I stared at a stranger in the mirror. The woman looking back was everything Madison and Jackson demanded, polished, composed, flawless. You look beautiful, honey, my mom said, her eyes moist as she adjusted my veil. Pride filled her voice, but my stomach twisted in knots. Thanks, Mom. I'm just nervous, I guess. She gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. Everything will be fine, she soothed, oblivious to the reality of the situation. The ceremony passed in a whirl, faces blurring together. Liam Montclair's side of the venue overflowed with the city's elite, judges, politicians, CEOs, while my side seemed meager, composed only of my mom and a few college friends. As the reception began, I quickly realized this was not the joyous celebration I had envisioned. Madison and Jackson reveled in the limelight, surrounded by their illustrious guests, and I, it seemed, was relegated to the role of server. Charlotte, darling, Madison cooed, her voice dripping with faux sweetness, be a dear and fetch us some champagne and those little crab cakes. Frozen in shock, I couldn't believe this was happening on my wedding day. The tasks didn't stop. I spent the next hour darting between tables, serving drinks and snacks, trying not to trip in my gown. The whispers and sneers of Liam Montclair's family followed me, making each step heavier than the last. By the time I returned to my seat, I was nearly in tears and Liam Montclair was absent, likely mingling with guests. I reassured myself, hoping things would improve post-ceremony. They'll have to start treating me as family, I thought. But then Madison's voice, loud and clear, cut through the reception din. Charlotte, she announced, ensuring the room heard, as the new Delroy daughter-in-law, it is your duty to serve our table for the evening. After all, we have the most important guests here. Something within me snapped. Months of suppressed frustration and humiliation surged forward. No, I declared, my voice firm despite its shake. I will not. It's my wedding day. And there are waiters for that, I retorted, my voice echoing in the sudden silence that gripped the room. Madison's face twisted into a mask of fury. How dare you, she hissed, her voice seething with contempt. You will do as you're told and remember your place, you ungrateful upstart. You have no right to defy me, a woman of distinguished lineage. Rage and humiliation battled within me as I turned away to find Liam Montclair. I spotted him at the bar, laughing jovially with a circle of his college friends, a champagne flute dangling from his hand. Liam Montclair, I hissed, grabbing his arm firmly. We need to talk.
Now.
He looked at me, his eyes clouded. What's wrong, babe? Can it wait? I'm right in the middle of something here. I dragged him aside to a quieter corner, my hands trembling. Your mother is treating me like a servant at our wedding, and here you are, laughing and drinking as if nothing is wrong. Liam Montclair's expression darkened with irritation. Are you serious right now? You're bothering me over this triviality. I stared at him, disbelief etching my features. Triviality? Liam Montclair, they're humiliating me in front of everyone. He rolled his eyes, swaying slightly. Oh, come on, just do what they ask. It's not a big deal. You should be grateful they're even letting you into the family. Grateful? I echoed, my voice tinged with disbelief. Yeah, grateful, he smirked, his arrogance clear. You think I didn't have other options? Prettier, richer girls from good families? I chose you, Charlotte. The least you could do is try to fit in. His words struck me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, feeling the ground shift beneath me. The man before me was not the Liam Montclair I thought I knew, not the man I had agreed to marry. It's almost time for the ceremony, he said, checking his watch dismissively. Pull yourself together, and let's get this over with. As he walked away, I stood frozen, tears welling in my eyes, threatening to spill. Everything was so wrong. Charlotte, my mom's voice cut through my turmoil. Honey, what's wrong? I turned to her, the concern in her eyes unleashing my tears. She enveloped me in a hug. Oh, sweetie, she murmured, stroking my hair. Talk to me. What's going on? Between sobs, I told her everything. The degradation, Liam Montclair's cruel words, the months of trying to reshape myself to fit into a world that clearly didn't want me. Mom listened intently, her expression growing grimmer with each word. When I finished, she held me at arm's length, her gaze piercing. Charlotte, she said, her voice gentle but firm. Do you truly love Liam Montclair? Do you want to marry him? 7 months ago, I would have answered without hesitation. But now, I shook my head slowly, a painful clarity dawning on me. No, I whispered. No, I don't. Mom nodded, her expression resolute. Then, let's end this charade. Before I could respond, she strode to the DJ's booth and seized the microphone. The feedback screeched, drawing everyone's eyes to her. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice clear and commanding. I apologize for this interruption, but there is an important announcement to make, a little truth that needs airing. Her gaze locked onto Madison and Jackson, who sat frozen. Champagne flutes halted midair. The room fell eerily silent, the tension palpable. Madison, Jackson, Mom continued, her voice echoing across the quiet room, or should I say, Madison and Jackson? Madison's face drained of color, a stark contrast to the confident sneer she had worn moments before. As Jackson's face turned a vivid shade of red, Madison stammered, her usually flawless French accent faltering. My mom's laugh, sharp and unforgiving, cut through the tense air. Oh, come on, Madison. Don't you recognize an old classmate? Emily Thompson, from good old Brookfield High, class of '80. Whispers and murmurs swept through the assembled crowd as the revelation settled. That's right, everyone, Mom continued, gaining momentum. Your esteemed hosts tonight, the supposedly noble Montclair, are about as French as apple pie. Madison here was just another classmate in our quaint little town, and Jackson was the boy from the wrong side of the tracks next door. I watched, fascinated, as Madison and Jackson seemed to deflate in their seats, their carefully curated personas unraveling before everyone's eyes. I knew it was them as soon as I heard their voices, Mom revealed with a wink directed at me. Though I must admit, that French accent is a new twist. Picked that up after we all moved to the city, aiming to make it big. Huh? She paused, letting the reality of her words sink in. Funny, isn't it? I stayed true to myself, remained just an ordinary woman. But Madison and Jackson here? They reinvented themselves as French nobility. Laughter and shocked whispers spread through the room as the guests digested the truth about the Montclairs' fabricated elegance. And, you know what the kicker is? Mom's voice sliced through the murmuring. These people, who invented their entire past, who lied about their origins to climb the social ladder, they dared to look down on my daughter, to treat her like she's beneath them. Turning to face the crowd, her eyes ablaze with indignation, she declared, "There's nothing noble about lying, nothing elite about treating people like dirt. The only thing beneath anyone here is the behavior of those who pretend they're better than the rest of us." A heavy silence followed her words. Slowly, The guests began to turn towards Madison and Jackson, their earlier looks of admiration now replaced by contempt and disgust. Caught in their lies, Madison and Jackson fumbled for explanations, their faux French accents crumbling into their true Midwestern twangs. "It's not what you think," Madison pleaded, her voice stripped of its earlier pretense. "We just wanted to give our son a better life," Jackson added in desperation, his accent revealing more of his humble beginnings than any chateau fantasy. "You don't understand the pressures of high society." Their pleas fell on deaf ears as the guests, many of whom had revered the Montclair for years, turned away in disdain. Amidst the uproar, Liam Montclair stormed up to me, fury contorting his features. "You," he spat, pointing at me accusingly. "You've ruined everything, my life, my family's reputation. It's all destroyed because of you." I looked at him, the man I thought I loved, and felt nothing but relief. No pain, no regret, just a profound release from the farce. Taking a deep breath, I faced the chaotic reception hall. "Everyone, may I have your attention, please?" My voice, clear and resonant, hushed the crowd. "I have an important announcement to make. There will be no wedding today." Gasps and murmurs cascaded through the crowd, the ripple of shock palpable as everyone processed the sudden turn of events. I continued, despite the rising emotions around me. "I've come to realize that I made a mistake. I chose someone who was embarrassed by my background and expected me to alter every aspect of myself to fit into his world. I regret that I nearly married someone so superficial and deceitful." With those words, I reached up, removed my veil, and let it drop gracefully to the floor. Looking over at my mom, whose face radiated pride, I nodded. "Let's go home, Mom." The fallout from that day was rapid and devastating for the Montclair. Once celebrated pillars of high society, they became pariahs overnight. Their connections deserted them, invitations ceased, and their fair-weather friends acted as if they had never known them. The last I heard, they were forced to sell their grand mansion and relocate to another city, hoping to escape the repercussions of their exposed falsehoods. As for me, life unfolded in unexpectedly wonderful ways. Just a few months after the canceled wedding, I met Lucas. He's a teacher at a local high school and comes from a working-class background much like my own. On our first date, I shared the entire ordeal with the Montclair. Far from being deterred, he laughed and said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet there. We've been together since, taking things slowly." His family, grounded and genuine, welcomed me with no prerequisites, no etiquette classes, no extensive family histories to memorize, just real warmth and acceptance. I returned to my previous job, where I was valued for my hard work and integrity. My mom and I have grown even closer. She's not just my mother, but my hero and my rock. I make sure she knows how much I appreciate her every single day. Life, it seems, has a funny way of writing itself when you stay true to who you are.
Greetings. My name is Tiana, and I find myself in the unfortunate circumstance of being a widow. I lost the love of my life at a very young age to a sudden illness. My husband was not just my life partner, but also my soulmate and best friend. In the aftermath of his passing, I leaned heavily on my family for emotional support. My parents were there for me, but my brother Desmond proved to be different. Instead of empathizing with my emotional struggles, Desmond appeared more focused on the material aspect of my situation. My late husband, a wealthy man, had left me a substantial estate and a considerable amount of money. Despite also working from home and earning a decent salary, my financial comfort was secondary to the profound loss I felt. I would have willingly traded all my wealth to have my husband back. To my disappointment, Desmond showed little interest in my feelings. "You know, Tiana," Desmond had said one evening, "it's great that you're financially secure. You should really think about putting some of that money to good use. Maybe for Elaine? You don't have children of your own." I blinked in surprise, unsure how to respond. "Desmond," I said carefully, "I just lost my husband. I'm not thinking about money or anyone else's needs right now. But he and his wife Monica, who had a stepdaughter named Elaine, consistently urged me to take on responsibilities related to Elaine. They seemed fixated on the idea that, given my financial standing and the absence of children, I should redirect my resources towards someone important. Monica even suggested that spending time with Elaine would provide me with a taste of motherhood. "It would be good for you, Tiana," Monica insisted during one family gathering. "You'll feel more fulfilled, and Elaine would benefit from your care. You've got so much to offer." I was taken aback by her forwardness. "I appreciate the suggestion, Monica, but I'm not in a place to do that right now. My focus is on grieving and healing," I retorted. Despite this, Desmond and Monica persisted, and even my parents were embarrassed by their insensitive remarks. I was furious with my brother for trying to take advantage of me while I was grieving my husband. Moreover, I hardly knew Elaine well enough for them to assume I would assume her responsibilities. Despite the passing days, Desmond and Monica persisted in trying to shift Elaine's responsibilities onto me. Desmond showed up at my door one afternoon. "Tiana, you're financially comfortable. You don't have children. What's the harm in helping Elaine? It's not like you can't afford it," he persuaded. I felt the anger rise in my chest. "Desmond, Elaine is your responsibility, not mine. I'm not her mother, and I'm certainly not some bank you can dip into whenever you want," I said angrily. His face reddened, but I pressed on, furious. "I'm still grieving. How dare you try to take advantage of my situation?" Desmond stammered an apology, but I wasn't done. "She's your child, not mine, and I am not obligated to take care of her." Desmond and Monica continued to pressure me, emphasizing my financial capacity. I firmly rejected their demands, asserting that my wealth didn't entitle them to my money, and that I was not responsible for their parental duties. I scolded them thoroughly that day, and they remained quiet for a while, likely realizing the family's displeasure with their behavior. However, the peace was short-lived. Desmond dropped a bombshell one morning. "Tiana," he said with a grave expression, "Monica's gone missing. We think it's a mental health crisis, and the police are involved." I was taken aback. "What? How long has she been missing?" I asked, bewildered. Monica had seemed fine to me. "3 days now," he admitted. "I've been trying to keep things under wraps, but it's getting serious. Elaine's asking for her mom. I need help." Days passed with no sign of Monica, and Desmond leaned heavily on the family for support and caring for Elaine, who was distraught and yearning for her mother. The family took turns comforting and looking after her. During her summer break, Elaine found herself in need of a babysitter whenever Desmond left for work. Desmond came to me again looking desperate. "Tiana, I know things have been tense between us, but I need your help. Elaine's been crying for her mom every night. I can't bear to leave her with a babysitter all day. Can you please help?" I hesitated but understood the weight of his words. "All right, Desmond," I replied. "I'll take care of her, but this is temporary. You need to focus on finding Monica." Desmond sighed with relief. "Thank you. I knew I could count on you." Soon, Desmond started dropping Elaine off at my place whenever he went to work. He assured me that Elaine was a well-behaved child and wouldn't cause much disturbance. I willingly took on the responsibility, allowing Desmond to focus on his job without worrying about Elaine's well-being. Although Elaine had been distressed initially, she adapted well to my home. I provided her with meals and toys, easing the financial burden on Desmond. As days passed, Elaine settled comfortably in my care, and her well-being improved. She expressed happiness about her time with me, making Desmond grateful for the positive impact. Our arrangement became somewhat routine, with Desmond picking Elaine up after work. The situation, initially temporary, gradually evolved into a more permanent arrangement. One evening, Desmond came to pick her up and sat down with me. "Tiana," he began softly, "I can't thank you enough for what you've done for Elaine. She's thriving with you. I've been thinking. I could already sense what was coming." "Desmond, what are you about to suggest?" I asked him bluntly. He hesitated before continuing. "Would you be willing to take her in? You live alone, you have the space, and Elaine loves being here. It wouldn't be a burden for you, right? I need to focus on my work and finding Monica." I stared at him in disbelief. "Desmond, you can't just spring this on me. Elaine is your daughter. She should be with you, especially now. This isn't responsible parenting, I replied. I know it's a lot to ask, he pleaded. But please think of what's best for Elaine. She needs stability, and I can't provide that right now. Feeling the weight of his request, I was torn. The family pressured me as well, pushing me to take her in. Reluctantly, I agreed. Fine, I said, defeated. But this is only temporary. Desmond looked relieved. Thank you, Tiana. I promise, once I've sorted things out, you won't have to worry about Elaine anymore. Slowly, Elaine transitioned into my home permanently. I prepared one of the spare rooms for her, added new furniture, and provided her with toys and clothes. She was content and happy to be part of my household. I had developed a close bond with Elaine, who began to regard me as one of her parents. Consequently, she found it effortless to confide in me about the unsettling truth regarding Desmond and Monica. It was Elaine who divulged the distressing family secret, expressing her affection by stating, "You are so nice, Aunt Tiana. I love you a lot. Dad says that you love me as well." Affirming my feelings, I assured her, "I do love you a lot, Elaine. You are almost like my own child." During our conversation, Elaine disclosed her enjoyment of being at my house, sharing that her mother also liked visiting and anticipated a future where I would generously provide them with the residence to live together. Perplexed by this revelation, I questioned Elaine. "When did your mother talk about this plan?" Elaine admitted, "She tells me almost every day, Tiana. She told me not to tell you, but I feel bad keeping secrets. Mom doesn't want you to know that she has been here." As the shocking information unfolded, I realized that Elaine's mother had been visiting my house, facilitated by the set of keys given to Desmond, supposedly for Elaine's visits. The calculated actions of Desmond and Monica to deceive me, coupled with the fact that they coordinated their visits with my absence, left me in disbelief and shock. I inquired further, "Why is your mother pretending to be gone? What's going on here, Elaine?" "She wants you to take me in as your child," Elaine explained, her voice trembling. "Mom says you're rich and don't have kids, so you're perfect to take care of me." The magnitude of their deception and manipulation left me reeling, grappling with the profound betrayal by my brother and my sister-in-law. "Does Desmond know about this? Is he in on the plan?" I asked, still stunned. "Yes, they told me not to tell you and to act like Mom wasn't here. I love you, so I told you everything. Please don't be mad at me," Elaine pleaded. "Oh, Elaine, I'm not upset with you, dear. Thank you for sharing your secrets with me," I reassured her, though inside I was boiling. "You did the right thing." I wanted to confront Desmond and give him a piece of my mind. I felt manipulated and used. Those two fools had exploited me to access my money, playing with my emotions and using their own child for their schemes. I was furious. I couldn't believe Desmond and Monica could be so greedy, going to such lengths to deceive the entire family just to make Elaine my heir. They were pathetic and disgusting as parents. I didn't even want to call Desmond my brother anymore. But first, I needed to catch them red-handed. I informed my housekeeper about the situation and told her to keep a close eye on everything. She was embarrassed that someone had been sneaking in behind her back, but I reassured her, "It's not your fault. My brother gave Monica the key." Together with Elaine, we devised a plan to put an end to this game once and for all. The next day, I pretended to leave for a shopping trip. I left the house in good spirits, drove around the neighborhood twice, and returned home. My housekeeper gave me the signal, and I entered Elaine's room. She was alone, playing with her toys. I looked at her and raised my eyebrows. She nodded and pointed to the closet. I opened the closet with a serious expression, and to my surprise, found my sister-in-law Monica inside. As soon as she saw me, she turned pale. I pulled her out and demanded, "Are you going to tell me what you're doing in my house, hiding in my closet?" Monica stammered, "I was just visiting my daughter." "Who exactly gave you permission to enter my house?" I snapped. "I don't recall ever giving you a set of keys, and aren't you supposed to be missing?" Her voice quivered. "Desmond gave them to me. I missed Elaine, and I just came back today. I was desperate to see her, so I came here without asking." I pressed further. "Then why has Elaine been telling me you visit her every time I leave the house? Do you have an explanation for that? She's just a child, Monica tried to dismiss. She doesn't really understand what she's saying. You shouldn't believe her. I glared at her. She is a child, and that's exactly why she told me the truth. You tried to use her in your scheme to manipulate me for money. You should be ashamed of yourself, Monica. You know I can have you arrested, right? The reality of her situation dawned on her, and she began to visibly tremble. Sweat beaded on her forehead as the gravity of her trespassing sank in. I wasn't done. Housekeeper, I called, take Elaine to my room. Monica and I need to have a little chat. Once Elaine was safely away, Monica was stuck with me. She pleaded, Tiana, there's no need to involve the police. I swear, I just came back today. I only wanted to see Elaine, so I begged Desmond for the keys. Is that so? I replied coldly. Then why is Desmond telling everyone he hasn't heard from you? Don't twist the story, Monica. Your daughter has already told me everything. Desperate, she said. Tiana, you have to understand. I was just trying to do what's best for Elaine. I'm a poor, desperate mother. Is that why you told her you were going to live in my house? I cut her off. Your daughter's a good kid, Monica. She knows what you did was wrong, and she told me. You thought you could take advantage of me, but you're wrong. Now you're going to see what happens when people cross me, I threatened. As soon as I said this, I could already hear sirens in the distance. Yes, I called the cops on Monica the moment I walked in through my door. She had entered my house without permission, and I intended to teach her a lesson. She attempted to flee, but I apprehended her and held her in place. The police arrived, took my statement, and subsequently arrested her. I conscientiously conveyed the entire situation to them, a revelation that undeniably left them astonished. Needless to say, they promptly contacted CPS to initiate an inquiry. With Elaine's mother now incarcerated, her father was poised to gain full custody. As for my brother, karma was swiftly catching up with him. Following Monica's apprehension by the police, I headed straight to my parents' home. We promptly reached out to Desmond and summoned him. Upon his arrival, it was evident that he was well aware that his grand plan had unraveled. He appeared embarrassed and steadfastly avoided meeting our gaze. Do you have anything to say for yourself? I demanded, fixing Desmond with a cold stare. Don't bother lying. We've transcended that point. I'm privy to the truth as much as you are, I added. Desmond shuffled uncomfortably, but then tried to explain. I'm sorry, Tiana, but I acted in Elaine's best interest. We believed you had the means to provide her with a lavish life, considering your solitary status and lack of children. We thought having Elaine around would be beneficial for you as well, he uttered. But Desmond, I countered, my voice firm, you orchestrated this solely for your interests. Elaine would have been happiest with her parents, working hard and thriving. Instead, you dumped her on me, disregarding my solitude. You only cared about who your heir would be, using that innocent child to ensnare me. I continued angrily. Tiana, please believe me. I only wanted, he began, but I cut him off. I don't care what you wanted, Desmond. The truth is, you deceived me and toyed with my emotions. I supported you consistently, and this is how you repay me? From today, you're on your own. Elaine is going to her father anyway. I don't have a brother anymore, and don't even think about asking me for money again. I won't help you, even if you're in dire straits, I responded abruptly. Desmond, taken aback by my stern stance, attempted to apologize and seek forgiveness. He even tried to enlist our parents to vouch for him. However, our parents sternly rebuked him, condemning him as a deceitful schemer. My father spoke first, his voice full of disappointment. Desmond, how could you do this to your own sister? To use Elaine as a pawn? You've betrayed us all, my mother added, her tone firm and unforgiving. You've broken our trust, Desmond. We raised you better than this. We want nothing more to do with you if this is the man you've become. They expressed feeling betrayed and severed ties with him, vowing to expose the true nature of both him and Monica. My parents, staunch advocates of morals and ethics, were deeply offended on my behalf and were resolute in imparting a significant lesson to the erring couple. After an hour-long tirade, they unceremoniously ejected Desmond from our midst. Later that evening, Desmond appeared at my door, pleading for forgiveness. Tiana, please, I'm begging you. Monica and we're in serious trouble now. CPS is investigating, and it looks like Monica will lose custody of Elaine. We have no savings, no way to post bail. Please, I need your help. I stared at him, unmoved. You and Monica deserve this, Desmond. Actions have consequences. Elaine's father is coming to take her back, and that's where she belongs. I slammed the door in his face, knowing there was nothing more to be said. From what I gathered, nobody was willing to lend support to Desmond and Monica any longer, leaving them isolated with a looming lawsuit. Meanwhile, Elaine had been reunited with her father, who expressed gratitude for the care I had provided. While I occasionally maintain contact with the young girl, my life has largely returned to its previous state. Hi, my name is Catherine, and this story will be very interesting for you, while it was a sad one for me. Now I'm just happy I dodged a bullet. I almost married into a judgmental family but was saved at the last minute. Here is the story about how I escaped a bad marriage. So, my life was pretty boring when I was in school. I was a big introvert and didn't date much. It wasn't until I went to college that I met Brooks. He was actually in medical school, and I was pursuing a degree in architecture. Our colleges were close to each other, and we met at a local cafe. It was love at first sight for me. You see, he was one of those very few people who knew how to hold a conversation with me. Naturally, we hit it off, and started dating about 2 months after we met. Brooks was a very good student with a great career ahead. He was pretty ambitious, and always talked about making it big. I really liked that he was driven, and wanted to make something of his life. Brooks came from a middle-class family with 2 hardworking parents. I could see that we had a lot in common, so it was easy to be with him. However, I never realized that Brooks was actually a pretty judgmental person, and it became evident when I introduced him to my family. My father, Bruce, was hosting Christmas alone because my mom had to be out of state for work, so I invited Brooks over to celebrate together. I was super excited to introduce him to my dad, but things didn't go well when they met. Initially, things were okay, but during dinner, Brooks started acting strangely. "Bruce, your daughter is an amazing woman," Brooks said, smiling. "I'm so happy to have found her. If you hadn't funded her college education, I may have missed out on meeting her," he added. "Oh, I didn't fund her college, Brooks. I'm a plumber, and college money can be a lot. My little girl is talented and she landed scholarships right off the bat," Dad replied, his tone casual. "I'm sorry, I don't understand," Brooks stammered. "You're a plumber, but you live in such a good house?" He was genuinely surprised. "That's mostly my wife's doing," Dad explained. "This was part of her inheritance. Plumbing is hard work, and it rarely pays enough to buy a house like this. But it's honest work," my father added. Brooks seemed unsettled. "It must be hard earning so little and supporting your family. You're a good role model for Catherine," he uttered. "Yes, I get a lot of inspiration from Dad. He works very hard to take care of me," I added, feeling the tension in the room. Brooks gave me a weird look and quickly changed the subject. The rest of the evening felt strange. After dinner, when Brooks saw that I had gifted Dad a brand new iPhone, he seemed even more surprised. He didn't comment on it, but I could see it bothered him. After Brooks left, my dad shared his first impression of the meeting. "I have a feeling Brooks didn't like me very much. I guess he thought you had rich parent," he summarized. "I never gave him that idea," I replied, confused. I don't know why he was so surprised. "I'll talk to him about his behavior," I assured my father. "You don't have to mess up your relationship because of me," Dad said gently. "You hardly date anyway, and I'm glad you found someone who loves you. As long as he treats you right, I don't mind if he looks down on me," he concluded. "That's my dad for you. He values our happiness over everything, even his pride." But I was furious on his behalf, and knew I had to talk to Brooks. Before I could, however, Brooks invited me to meet his family, who lived in a different city. I hoped it would go better than the dinner with my dad. When I arrived at Brooks's house, it became clear right away that his family was uncomfortable around me. His father, Finn, tried to be friendly, but his mother, Sophia, was outright hostile. She barely smiled and avoided eye contact. Brooks was his usual self, though I could feel him getting tense. At dinner, Sophia turned to me with a sharp smile. "So, I heard you're a plumber's daughter?" she began. "Yes, I responded, trying to stay calm. My father has his own plumbing business, and he's been doing this job for a while. How sad for you, she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. It must be hard living with such a loser father. I don't understand how people who don't work hard end up having families they can't even feed, Brooks's mother concluded. I felt my face flush with anger. Excuse me, my father works very hard, and we have a decent life. I don't consider my dad a loser, I retorted. Sophia, that was rude, Finn interjected. You can't say things like that. Catherine is a guest. Sophia shrugged, indifferent. Well, it's the truth. Brooks shifted uncomfortably. Mom, Catherine's a great girl, and she has a good career. She's not beneath me at all, he added. Sophia scoffed. I don't know where my son picked up this trash. Don't you know better than to date beneath you? I couldn't stay quiet any longer. Sophia, I know your son is going to be a successful doctor, but that's not what makes relationships work. Respect is what matters, I stated to her. Sophia's eyes flashed. Let's not talk about the poor decisions your mother made in life, she snapped. My son deserves more. That's enough, Finn said sternly. You need to apologize to Catherine. But Sophia never apologized. She stayed silent for the rest of the night, though the damage was done. I tried to salvage the evening by talking with Finn, but the mood was ruined, and Sophia's cold looks didn't help. When I got back home, I told Brooks not to contact me for a while. His family's behavior had really thrown me off, especially Sophia's. Brooks didn't discourage her nasty comments about my dad, and that hurt. A few days later, Brooks and I met at our usual cafe to talk. I took a deep breath and said, Brooks, I've had a lot on my mind. I don't like the way you and your mom talked about my dad. It was downright disrespectful. Brooks sighed. Catherine, I'm sorry. My mom is just old-fashioned. She has issues with family status. She knows I'm serious about you, so she's just looking out for me, he tried to explain. I get that, Brooks, but you never defended my dad. You were rude to him too when you came over. He looked uncomfortable. I was just surprised, Catherine. I thought you came from a better family, and your dad being a plumber caught me off guard, he excused himself. My family is great, I said firmly. If you're going to be judgmental about that, it's better to end things here. Brooks looked shocked. No, please, he said quickly. I'm really sorry. I'll try to be better. Don't end this over a misunderstanding. Despite being furious, I could see he was genuinely willing to try, so I gave him another chance. But I made it clear. If he continued insulting my family, I would leave. He promised to do better. For a few months, things went smoothly, mostly because Brooks rarely visited my family. Every time I invited him, he had an excuse. Instead, he insisted I spend time with his family. Finn was always fun, but Sophia continued to nitpick everything about me. From my clothes to my lifestyle, nothing escaped her criticism. If you want to be with my son, Sophia would say, you need to change your ways. He has a prestigious career, and your middle-class habits won't be a good look for him. What's wrong with my lifestyle? I would ask, trying to stay calm. I don't overspend, and I manage my income well. Sophia would sneer. Being cheap and tacky might have worked for your parents, but it won't work for Brooks. Our family standards are higher, and you need to adapt, she demanded. I found her comments insulting but refused to engage her more than necessary. Brooks wasn't making rude remarks anymore, and that mattered to me. I did try to talk to him about Sophia's behavior, but he always said, I can't control what my mom thinks. I understood his point, so I didn't push further. Brooks never met my mom. He always had a busy schedule, and things got worse after he became a doctor. While he made time for me, traveling to meet my family was apparently too much for him. I tried to be supportive, since I knew he had a stressful job. 3 years later, Brooks proposed to me. He was working as a doctor, earning well, and I was satisfied with my job as an architect. We were both ready for marriage. When he proposed, I was over the moon. The ring was perfect, and I couldn't say anything other than yes. However, the worst was yet to come. When I called my parents and informed them about the proposal, they were pretty happy for me. My mom even said, it's time to welcome him into the family with a big dinner. However, his family had a very different reaction. I was there when he called them. Mom, Dad, we're engaged, Brooks announced, his voice full of excitement. I proposed to her yesterday, and she said yes. His dad, Finn, immediately responded, "That's great, guys. I'm so happy for you. When is the engagement party? Catherine, I can't wait to formally have you as my daughter-in-law." "Thank you, Finn," I replied, feeling a sense of warmth. "I'm happy to join your family too." There was a pause. "Mom, won't you say something?" urged Brooks, sensing the silence. "I have a lot to say, but I want to speak to you alone. Come see me tomorrow. We need to talk." With that, Sophia simply hung up, leaving us in confusion. Brooks looked at me, concerned. "I'll talk to her tomorrow, I promise," he said. The next day, he spoke with his mother, but whatever they discussed left him visibly upset. "What happened?" I asked, but he shook his head, refusing to tell me. Sophia also started ignoring my calls, and when I visited, she wouldn't even speak to me. At that point, I didn't care. I knew she never liked me, and I was done trying to win her over. Despite the tension, Brooks and I were happy with our engagement. We began planning our wedding, setting tentative dates, and even discussing the venue. Brooks had just gotten an amazing job at a big hospital in my city. He was excited about the move, and the fact that the new position offered him a 60% salary increase. We were both thrilled. But before we could even set a wedding date, Brooks called me one day. "Catherine, we need to talk," he said, his voice unusually serious. I was nervous, having never heard him sound like that before. When we met, he looked distraught. "I'm so sorry, Catherine," he began. "I don't think I can be with you. We need to end the engagement." I was stunned. What? Brooks, have you lost your mind? What the hell happened? What did I do?" I exclaimed, my nerves on edge. "You didn't do anything," he said, avoiding my eyes. "It's just that we're not compatible anymore. I do love you, but I think this is for the best," he tried to justify himself. "Not compatible? We were doing fine. What are you not telling me?" I demanded, my heart racing. "Don't push it, Catherine. I don't want to upset you anymore," he said, his tone soft but final. "It's not your fault. It's just the circumstances that you're in," Brooks added. I could feel the truth creeping in. "Oh, so this is about my family. That's why you're leaving, isn't it?" I asked. Brooks sighed. "I'm sorry, Catherine. I really love you, but I have to think about my future," he concluded. "Save it, Brooks." "I don't want to hear it," I retorted, standing up. "Consider us done." I walked out, drove home, and didn't look back. My parents were there to comfort me. I cried for days, pouring my heart out to them. They were furious on my behalf, but they also said, "You're better off without him." Dad, however, felt guilty. "It's because of our background that this happened," he muttered, which only made my heart break more. A week later, Sophia showed up at my house. She had that smug look I had come to despise. She glanced around the place with disdain before walking in. "What do you want, Sophia?" I asked demandingly, trying to keep my composure. "You have no business coming here," I added. "I'm here for the engagement ring," she replied coldly. "My son will need it when he proposes to a better woman. Give it back." "He could have told me," I responded, feeling the anger rise. "I would have dropped it off at your house. Why are you here?" Sophia smirked. "I wanted to see you one last time. You see, your parents didn't teach you well. It was pretty ambitious of you to try and be a doctor's wife. My son is successful now. He needs more than a plumber's daughter as his wife. So, I called him and put some sense into him," she stated. "So that's why he broke it off with me," I uttered, feeling my heart tighten. "You think he's too good for a plumber's daughter?" I asked her. "Of course," she said proudly. "I made him do it. He was so blinded by you that he was ready to set aside his standards. I had to make him see reason. He's set to become even more famous by joining the new hospital. You're just not good enough for him anymore," she smirked. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I understand that, Sophia. I'm okay with what he's done. I don't need a judgmental and immature partner anyway. I hope he finds someone with a family that suits his standards," I replied. "Oh, don't worry, dear," Sophia said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I'm sure he will. I heard the hospital's board of directors has some pretty daughters. I'll help him find one soon. He'll forget about you and marry one of them." I was on the verge of laughter when the perfect thing happened. My mum walked in. "You see, I texted her when Sophia showed up at the house. I had been planning my revenge for a while, and now it was time to make it happen. My mom is one of the hospital directors. My late grandpa was also one when he was alive. Mom actually met my father when he was hired for some minor work at the hospital. Grandpa was against the relationship at first, but they won him over. My mom gets furious when anyone looks down on Dad or me. She was especially angry when she found out what Brooks had done. Now she was here to help me get my revenge. Sophia and Brooks had no idea what was coming. Sophia took one look at my mom and went as white as a sheet. I knew she had done enough research to know who my mom was. Sophia stammered, "Oh my God, you're one of the directors at the hospital here. What are you doing here?" She was discouraged. "Hello there," my mom said, her voice calm but firm. "I'm Freya. You must be Sophia. My daughter has said quite a bit about you," my mom continued. Daughter?" Sophia blinked in confusion. "Yes, the one your son ditched a few days ago. I'm sure it must have been hard for him to date a plumber's daughter," my mom added. Sophia flushed and stumbled over her words. "He didn't mean it that way. I never knew you were Catherine's mother. Brooks never mentioned it," she excused herself. "That's because he never met me," Mom replied coldly. "If he had any respect for our family, he would have made the effort. He rejected plenty of invitations. I'm a private person, so I told Catherine to keep my job a secret." Sophia's eyes widened. "If Brooks knew, he would have never broken the engagement. Catherine, you can keep the ring. Perhaps Brooks will realize he made a mistake." She began to backpedal. "You mean you will tell him that now I'm perfect for him? Then he'll try to make things right, and I will take him back." "I don't think my plumber father will allow that," I cut in, shaking my head. "Don't be so harsh," Sophia was almost pleading. "Brooks was being stupid. You can forgive him. You do love him, right? I'm sure you can overlook it," she kept coaxing. "There's no need for that. My daughter is better off without a judgmental fool like him. By the way, it's good we met. I need you to pass a message to your son." Mom spoke up, her tone icy. Sophia looked nervous. "What message?" she asked. "Tell him the hospital is rescinding the job offer. He can look for employment elsewhere," my mother concluded. Sophia's face crumpled in panic. No, please don't do this. Brooks is a great doctor. He'll be an asset to your hospital," she begged. Mom shook her head. "Brooks might be a great doctor, but he's a terrible person. We don't hire judgmental and greedy people. He knows we have a morality clause. There's no way we're hiring someone who looks down on others." Sophia was almost in tears now. "Please, this is just a misunderstanding. Brooks will make it right. He's already left his other job for your hospital. Don't do this to him. We'll do anything to change your mind. Catherine, please talk to your mom." I crossed my arms. "She makes her own decisions, Sophia," I firmly declared. Mom handed the ring back to Sophia. "Here's the ring you asked for. Now that you have it, you can leave." Sophia's voice broke as she begged, No, please keep the ring. We can talk this out." But Mom was unmoved. Sophia kept pleading, making all sorts of promises to save Brooks's job. She even offered to apologize to my dad and beg for his forgiveness. But Mom wasn't having any of it. "You won't be allowed anywhere near my family again," she finished. With that, we kicked her out, tears streaming down her face as she left. After Sophia was gone, Brooks bombarded me with calls and texts, begging me to convince my mother to change her decision. He even accused me of sabotaging his career. I simply replied, "You did this to yourself." For the next phase of my revenge, I told all of my mom's friends what had happened. They were appalled by Brooks's behavior. Word spread fast, and soon nearly everyone in the industry knew what Brooks had done. He was blacklisted by all the prestigious hospitals in the state. Most of them knew my mom and respected her, so they refused to hire anyone who had betrayed her family. Brooks and Sophia harassed me every day, begging me to change my mind. They wanted me back. Even Finn, Brooks's father, called me up. But all Finn did was apologize for his family's behavior. "Sophia has ruined Brooks's future," he admitted. "They've argued about you so many times. I'm finally separating from her. I can't stay with someone so cruel and manipulative," he added. I wished him the best. "You deserve better, Finn." Life went back to normal for me after a few months. The calls and texts from Sophia and Brooks stopped after I threatened to sue them for harassment. Finn told me he had kicked them out of his house, and they'd had to move to another state. Brooks did find another job, but it didn't pay well, and he had to shoulder the expenses for his mother. Now, Brooks blames Sophia for ruining his life. He's filled with regret, while I'm living my best life.